गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डम् गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डम् गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डम् गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डम् लसद्दन्तकाण्डं विपद्भङ्गचण्डं शिवप्रेमपिण्डं भजे वक्रतुण्डम् गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डं लसद्दन्तकाण्डं विपद्भङ्गचण्डं शिवप्रेमपिण्डं भजे वक्रतुण्डम् लसद्दन्तकाण्डं विपद्भङ्गचण्डं शिवप्रेमपिण्डं भजे वक्रतुण्डम् शिवप्रेमपिण्डं भजे वक्रतुण्डम् शिवप्रेमपिण्डं भजे वक्रतुण्डम् शिवप्रेमपिण्डं भजे वक्रतुण्डम्। जय श्री प्रणव गणेश भगवान की जय। गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डं गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्भृङ्गखण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डं चलच्चारुशुण्डं जगत्प्राणशौण्डम् गलद्दानगण्डं विलद्
लम्बोदरं परमसुन्दरमेकदन्तं रत्नाम्बरं त्रिनयनं परमं पवित्रम् उदयद्दिवाकर चरोज्ज्वलकायकान्तं विघ्नेश्वर सकलविघ्नहरं नमामि। गजाननं भूतगणादिसेवितं कपित्तजम्बूफलसारभक्षितम् उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम् नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम्। त्वां देव विघ्नदलनेति च सुन्दरेति भक्तप्रियेति सुखदेति फलप्रदेति विद्यादेति अद्य हरेति च मे स्तुवान्तम् तेभ्यो गणेश वरदे भव नित्यमेव। लम्बोदर गिरिजानन्दन लम्बोदर गिरिजानन्दन पूर्ण करे मन कामना लंबोदर गिरिजानंदन पूर्ण करे मन कामना लंबोदर गिरिजानंदन विघ्न विनाशक विघ्न निवारण विघ्न विनाशक विघ्न निवारण विद्यादायी गजानना विघ्न विनाशक विघ्न निवारण विद्यादायी गजानना लंबोदर गिरिजानंदन पूर्ण करे मन कामना लंबोदर गिरिजानंदन
गणनायकाय गणदेवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणाधीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि गानचतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुकाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदेवताय गुरुकुलस्थायिने गुरुविक्रमाय गुह्यप्रवराय गुरुवे गुणगुरुवे गुरुदैत्यकलक्षेत्रे गुरुदेव सदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्रपरित्रात्रे गुरुपाखण्डखण्डकाय गीतसाराय गीततत्त्वाय गीतगोत्राय धीमहि गूढगुल्फाय गन्धमत्ताय गोजयप्रदाय धीमहि गुणाधीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि
ग्रन्थगेयाय ग्रन्थातरात्मने गीतलीनाय गीताश्रयाय गीतवाद्यपटवे गेयचरिताय गायकवराय गन्धर्वप्रियकृते गायकाधीनविग्रहाय गङ्गाजलप्रणयतवे गौरीस्तनान्यधाय गौरीहृदयनन्दनाय गौरभानुसुताय गौरी गणेश्वराय गौरीप्रणयाय गौरीप्रवनाय गौरभावाय धीमहि गोसहस्राय गोवर्धनाय गोप्यगोपाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि
Today is August 23rd, 2020, and it is my great pleasure to welcome Swami Jyotirmayananda's devotees here in Florida, across the U.S., and throughout the world to our Ganesh Chaturthi celebration at the Yoga Research Foundation Ashram in Miami, Florida. Remember always that no matter how far apart we may be at this time, we are all forever enfolded by Guru Dev's loving blessings. And now our revered Guru commences the program with a Sanskrit peace chant.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Om Aim Saraswatyai Namah. Om Shri Guruve Namah. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
And now the highlight of our celebration, our revered Guru's special lecture entitled Mystic Insight into Ganesh Chaturthi.
Om Gajananam Bhuta Ganadhishevitam Kapitha Jambu Phalasara Bhakshitam Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam. One of the popular stotras praising Lord Ganesha. Adorations to the Lord who has the elephant's face symbolizes Om, who is attended on by the deities of the subtle elements. It symbolizes the entire world, the universe, is product of 5 subtle elements, Panchabhutas. And those bhutas, they have their extensions. And they are the ganas. in allegorical way, they always attend on Lord Shiva. And among all the Ganas, they are under the loving guidance of Ganesha. So Ganesha is Ganapati, the Lord of Ganas. Eater of the essence of kapitha and jambu fruits. Enjoyer of all the sweet and sour experiences of the world. The world experience is always in the form of raga, dvesha, like, dislike, gain, loss, happiness, sorrow. Jara, mrityu, and so forth. Lord Ganesha eats up. How does he eat up raga? Raga, attachment, that causes attachment, turns into love of God. Dvesha, that compels you to be separated. Anything you hate, you want to be separated from it. The divine sublimation is neti neti. You separate from the entire universe of illusion. Raga, love all, not leave anything behind. Dvesha, separate yourself from all, don't leave anything behind. Raga, all this is God, absolute love. Dvesha, nothing else exists. God is the absolute self. So, adorations to the son of Uma Devi. Uma Devi is Prakriti Devi. Her name is Uma. She is the devotee of Om. Om is absolute self, Brahman, allegorically presented as Lord Shiva. That Uma Devi, the Prakriti, that leads every soul to God realization. If you are following the spiritual path, same Prakriti leads the soul to lower grades. All things that happen is operation of Prakriti, Uma. And that Prakriti Devi's loving son is Lord Ganesha. Who causes the destruction of all sorrows. And that's always the purpose of attaining God realization. Ashocyanan vashochastvam. That's what Gita begins. Shok, sorrow, grief. That was Arjuna's complaint. And Krishna informs him that all that you are grieving for, they are not worth grieving for. Your mental illusion. All that you are enjoying in a dream, and suddenly there comes a hurricane into your dream. That also is a hurricane dream. And everything has been blasted away, and we are grieving. You lost everything. But try to figure out when you wake up, what is the situation? You didn't lose anything. You're crying so much about things you lost in your dream. It's ridiculous, of course. But while dreaming, it didn't seem ridiculous. While you are in a state of bondage, grief is a reality in daily life, in different proportions, until you become until the grief becomes very brief, and it stays like clouds hovering in the sky, and you become like the sky. So adorations to the son of Uma Devi, who causes the destruction of all sorrows. Adorations to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the dispeller of all obstacles. Another stotra that supplements Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Avighnam Kurme Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. O Lord Ganesha, you who have curled tusks, I will be explaining all those points. The gigantic body, it means he is all enfolding. The entire world is within his body. So he has to be gigantic. Who shines like the effulgence of millions of suns. You have to calculate and blend million suns together. That's allegorical statement made about wisdom, absolute wisdom. May you render all my activities free of obstacles forever and ever. So today we are celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi, the celebration of his birth. In a storyline, is always allegorical. And let me give you a little picture of this story. Uma Devi, Prakriti Devi, was enjoying bath in her inner quarters. And there was a lot of beauty paste that she was accustomed to using. And playfully in her mind there came the idea of creating a little doll-like picture. And she created a beautiful baby out of the mud. Not the mud, the beautiful paste, the golden paste from her body. And that became Ganesha. And Prakriti Devi asked Ganesha to be at the gateway. Don't allow anybody until she has finished her bath, etc. And Ganesha becomes the gatekeeper. And there comes the whole story and drama of how many people come and they are all thrown away. Ganesha wouldn't let anyone in. And complaint reaches Shiva. Shiva himself wants to check the matter. and Ganesha wouldn't let him in. Finally, Shiva becomes angry, chops off his head. And now, to give you a brief story, Parvati Devi grieves and urges Shiva to restore Ganesha. But his head couldn't be located. So, Lord Vishnu takes up the project of finding a head. And he finds a celestial elephant that also has its own stories. I'm not going into those. And that head was planted on the body of Ganesh. Thus Ganesha became their very beloved son. But understand this subtle meaning behind it. The meaning is, Prakriti Devi, when you advance on the spiritual path, Prakriti goes on becoming more and more purified and adorned. And the adornment of Prakriti is sattva. The more sattva develops, greater is the beauty of nature. That sattva becomes, an aspect of sattva becomes her paste. From that sattva she brings about Ganesha. What Vedantically called sattvapatti. If you have come to the state of abundance of sattva in your mind, that as if Ganesha has become embodied in that state. Once you have come to that state, you cannot go backward. And you don't possess your old head. Your old head is subject to mortality. The head of Ganesha is immortality. Allegorically, that head is elephant head. Elephant in Sanskrit or Gaja. Gaja is a mystic word, but most mystic terminologies, they are allegorically identified with animals and birds. But that's the sage's method of bringing the profound teachings in one's daily life. Like we talk about swan, peacocks, Garuda bird. All these birds are divine birds. Mouse, which you will soon hear about it. So, I was explaining the word Gaja. Jakaro Janma Vicheda. Ja term relates to that movement that terminates the cycle of birth and death. Ga is Gati. That Gati movement, Gati means Gati movement, progress. the progress that leads you to termination of birth and death. That type of movement in sadhana. Practice integral sadhana in your daily life, integral yoga. That's always considered the healthy understanding of what we mean sadhana. Your action must be karma yoga. Along with karma yoga, your bhakti, devotion, love of God must increase. Along with it, you must possess strength of will. And your understanding must go on bringing you profound wisdom, jnana yoga. Will aspect is jnana yoga. So karma, bhakti, dhyana, jnana all together is spiritual movement, gati. And that gati leads you to this cessation of birth and death. You must understand Ganesha is Brahman to be invoked in the beginning stage of all your sadhana. Then we call it Shri Ganesha. If you don't do that, Sanskrit language brings another term, Arambha. Begin. Great pleasure awaits you. Rambha term relates to an apsara in the heavenly world, giver of great enjoyment. So most people who are not following spiritual path, all they want is happiness, pleasure in the world, and security of pleasure. Though it is impossible, but when mind is dull with it, who cares? So that's the meaning behind Gaja. An elephant head symbolizes Om. Head is the climax of this gati. That climax is Om. Even in writing Om, you have a curled up appearance of Om. And if you look at Ganesha's head, it matches up in a very allegorical way with Om. Even if it doesn't match up, that's the mystic meaning behind his head. If your head turns into elephant head, you become enlightened. The elephant head is symbolic of double consciousness. The trunk is used by the elephant for smelling as well as breaking things. It is Gyanendriya and Karmendriya. And that's pointing to double consciousness. From philosophically, consciousness of your practical world, day-to-day world, and consciousness of the reality behind all this world. Absolute self. Living in your life in the practical world, untouched by the limitations of the world. In order to understand, that's called Brahmi Sthiti, established in Brahman. All that is relates to Ganesha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Avhignam kurme deva sarvakaryeshu sarvada. O Lord Ganesha, you who have curled tusks, the gigantic body, who shines like the effulgence of millions of suns, may you render all my activities, all our activities, free of obstacles forever. Let me give you some general understanding. Ganesha, Lord Ganesha, is presented that's the way his allegorical presentation is, that his elephant head, they have put two tusks, but that's artist's mistake. He has only one tusk. No, it's my mistake. His tusk is broken here. He's ekdanta, one tusk. The other tusk shows up a little, but it's broken. I'm joking. Things are handled by his hands. One hand is holding lots of laddus called modak. If you follow a spiritual path in a profound way, you begin to experience increasing delight. That movement is described allegorically like these laddus. They're not source of calories. I'm joking. This is the type of delight that goes on strengthening your spiritual movement, nourishing you in a spiritual way. That's called modak. Another hand holds a danda. Is a staff of control. Danda has itself a subtle meaning. Ordinarily, danda means Ganesha will punish all that is negative, the obstacles that impede your spiritual progress. Ganesha will destroy those obstacles. Impurities, dark forces that are described as in the form of big demons, Ganesha's danda will beat them up, smash them into powder. Another hand holds another substance. It's a flower. The different pictures will give you different presentations and different, because all these are allegorical. So if you find something else, there's no contradiction. Fourth hand is just open. He's giving Abhaya Mudra, a guaranteed victory over death, to be absolutely fearless. This particular hand that here it shows like a flower is actually Ankush. Ankush means it's that which controls in is a sharp-edged instrument. Your obstacles cannot endure, cannot stay before the power of the Ankush of Ganesha. Ganesha allows your virtuous qualities to be nirankush, not to be shaken. And final goal is described as nirankusha tripti. So the Ankush plays all this part. And when we talk of danda, that is like a big stick type of substance, instrument, that old times saintly people used to carry. It has a subtle meaning, da plus anda. 3 da, dama, dana, daya. If you are drawing it in your heart, that is danda. In doing so, you go through your austerity and that's the way Ganesha's danda operates. You ate up too much, now go through a fast. Fast is austerity. Now good things are cooking in the house and you can't eat them. That's danda. I'm joking, bringing you a very simple way to understand. And his color is red, which is symbolic of divine love. And he has 2 wives, Siddhi and Buddhi. Different scriptures bring a little different. Siddhi, all the powers you can gain by following the spiritual path. But Siddhi keeps you, in this context, keeps you in early stage of being virtuous. Buddhi allows you to go beyond the limit of virtue. Virtue keeps you in the world, giving you lot of happiness, and after death you enjoy heaven, but you come back. That type of is a sakamya state. That Ganesha promotes this progress. Every soul has to go through in 2 stages. Be highly virtuous, like King Dasharatha was. And then his sons go beyond virtue, beyond that virtue that keeps you in the cycle of birth and death. Aspiration for God realization, that's what it means. So you are not satisfied just developing virtues. Your real virtue is, these virtues that you have developed, they must inspire you to attain the source of all virtues, God realization. So that's what Buddhi does. So Siddhi and Buddhi, these are like wives of Ganesha. And Ganesha has 2 sons, Yoga and Kshema. Yoga in this context means uniting, obtaining things that you want to gain, that gain aspect. Kshema, maintain the gain. Otherwise, you gain today and lose tomorrow. Today you have joined with what you want. Tomorrow, or not tomorrow, maybe after some years, you lose it. All things in this world are shaky. Your yoga and kshema. But Ganesha wives, they are all with purpose. They will not be lost. All these is subtle implications. And the most profound implication behind Ganesha is his rat vehicle. So hardly you can see him. Rat is another divine spirit called Crunch, whose role was to inspire people to have heavenly enjoyment. But in the storyline, somehow he touched a sage who cursed that rat, rather not the rat, Crunch. May you become a rat. And Ganesha, that rat, in the beginning created a lot of trouble. But later, by austerity, pleased Ganesha. And Ganesha chose that rat to be his vehicle. Behind this story is a lot of subtle meanings. The mouse of Ganesha is an international term. All your computers require mouse button. And Ganesha is the source of all wisdom. The modern wisdom rides on your mouse button. Sometimes your fingers play the mouse button, but still it is mouse. So you can well understand how the ancient world has described, and Vyasa wanted to write Mahabharata, so much inspiration entered his mind that he didn't know how he could present it. Then he thought about Ganesha. And Ganesha became the shorthand writer of Vyasa's inspiring compositions. I will not go into all those details. There are lots of stories, story within story. Let me give you some highlighted points. Firstly, the mantra Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Om means Brahman. Shri, goddess of prosperity, Lakshmi Devi, who is the giver of divine virtues. Ga is Gati, movement towards liberation. Re, when say Rana term Krishna, that relates to bliss. When you are very, very happy, all the teeth resonate. Sha, Ganesha, Sha is Shanti. Ya is in your very heart. Namah, negation of me and mine. This is the mantra of Ganesha. You can simply say Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. That's mantra. Or Shri Ganesh Ki Jai. Let me give you some highlighted points. once Ganesha, having enjoyed a lot of feast offered by his devotees, commenced his journey, and that is this on this Chaturthi day. Try to understand the word Chaturthi. What in a early state of meaning, Chaturthi, literal meaning, suggesting that fourth day of Shukla Paksha, the bright half of the month begins, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth. Then the moon is very crescent. And that's during Bhadra season. Bhadra is just about the season that now you are facing. It's after rains. The implication of that Chaturthi, subtle meaning, Ganesha is the giver of 4 purposes of life: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. See, in Hanuman Chalisa there is a statement, Jo Dayak Phalchar. That Phalchar, 4 purposes are fulfilled. That's Chaturthi. And what does that Shukla Paksha means, the bright half? In order to understand that, turn your attention to the Uttarayana Marg, the northern path, which is the description of the path that leads one to liberation. No one will attain liberation unless one follows all those points. You may not call it Uttarayana. Just to remind you, Agnir, you develop Vairagya. You become mature, understand, don't go after worldly pleasure like kids. That development is fire. Jyoti, allow your intellect to develop subtle purity, to understand the difference between truth and falsehood, appearance and reality. Every quality is progressive. Agnir Jyoti, now your life is being lived with purpose. And that Shukla, that purposeful life, becomes now well defined with the illustration of how the waxing moon increases more and more in a clear firmament of the sky. Your heart is the firmament. In that divine joy, Godward movement, giving you more and more joy, and the joy that you experience starts like a crescent moon. And after that, your consciousness develops boundless dimension, increases more and more in its expansion until you attain the high self-realization, infinite expansion. In this whole circle of Uttarayana. Ganesha is the most important development denoting perfect success. So that Ganesha is brought out in every temple, in every puja, in every type of good activity, because your ultimate goal is the attaining self-realization. And it is Ganesha that gives you a whole key to the entire Uttarayana. Your key lies in your heart. Real success you measure by your inner feeling. And when a feeling starts curled up a little bit at least, that's a proof that you are a right path. Shri Ganesh. And all your obstacles will be overcome. Now let me give you the episode. So Ganesha had eaten a lot and he was just passing through a forest with some divine project. And he was riding his little rat mouse. As he was riding, on the way, a snake comes and the rat became afraid of that snake. So suddenly the rat lost the attention on Ganesha, slipped. Ganesha tumbled. All the food he has eaten, his stomach erupted. All the food he has eaten, scattered. So Ganesha, when he saw this, became exceedingly angry, caught hold of the snake and tied the snake around his neck or around his waist. He used the snake as a rope, put all these things that were thrown out, drew it into his stomach and used the snake as a belt. See? Even you are laughing. The moon laughed. And Ganesha was so wrathful. But he didn't have any weapon around him. But in his anger, he broke one of his tusk and threw at the moon. And moon had to suffer in the storyline a lot. And still everybody sees the marks in the moon. People take it just like a story. But it is always very profound meaning. Because Ganesha the role was in the beginning. Ganesha is in two stages. You can worship Ganesha for worldly goals. That Ganesha is the one who had eaten a lot, but all that you attain, they are not secure in the stomach of Ganesha. Because you have not developed Nishkamya Bhavana. All that you are working is for Sakamya, for Pravritti, not Nivritti. So, if you are in Pravritti level, you have no control over your Kundalini energy. So, when the challenge comes from Kundalini, your rat vehicle cannot support you. The rat is insightful thinking. The subtle thinking process that operates, that brings about the operation of insight. It's just like a rat goes on cutting webs. In old style homes, people slept, but they heard some click, 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 click going on. So you do your sadhana, and even while you are sleeping, what you have done is doing in subconscious world, click, 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 adjusting your vasanas. So that's the role of Ganesha, is Ganesha's mouse. And so that in brief, Ganesha controls the snake. Kundalini project is being handled in a perfect way. That means Ganesha has put the belt. And now all your pleasant experiences are not meant to be scattered. They are now becoming a nourishment for your spiritual strength. How? Your pleasant experiences, ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhi. If your food has been purified, your nourishment makes your mind profoundly sattvic, pure. And purity of your mind brings heights of wisdom. I will not go into too much detail of that. So all that happens in this episode. Now Ganesha with snake as his belt, means Kundalini is under his perfect control. And the laughter of the moon is pravritti. Pravritti means you are going after all the pleasures that are like reflected light of the sun. The moon is not real. Moon's light is a reflected light. Who is the reality behind the moon's light? Sun. But those who are dull wit, they stay with the moon only. They don't go beyond the moon. And the moon and your mind, they go together. La luna. So that moon is the troublemaker. And Ganesha movement strikes at that pravritti movement, bhoga movement, and switches your mind from worldly pleasure to divine joy. And that joy movement is the laddus, call it waffles. One interesting episode, just give you a brief. Brahma, out of his sleepy time, in a storyline, Brahma at one time was somehow in a state of sleepy state, and he woke up, and from his eyebrows came out a demon, Sindhurasur. The demon received the boon that whoever the demon catches within his arms, as much as arms can reach, all that will become his target. He can burn them up, he can do whatever they want. And that Sindhurasur became so perverted that went after all the gods, wanted to be greater than all, extended his arms and went around Kailasha mountain and Badri Kedar, and all gods came under his. Ganesha extended his trunk and beat up this demon, crushed him and threw him into the ocean. Sindhurasur was seen as a splash of red, and Sindhurasur thereby attained sublimation. And that's the story behind Sindoor. Kumkum is another version of same thing. The married women in India and anywhere, Indian culture, Sindoor is there in the locks. The locks are separated. One is raga, another is dvesha. Between the two separation, Sindoor. Sublimation of moha, delusion that stops your movement, as if you become lazy. You begin to yawn. That creates that type of tandra type. The spirit behind that is this Sindhurasur. His hands are raga and dvesha, attachment and hatred. And all those who come under the grip of attachment and hatred, they are as if prey to the world process of birth and death. But Ganesha movement sublimates this Sindhurasur, who turns into beautiful red in the ocean. The term Sindoor Sindhu means ocean. In the ocean of your heart, divine love has developed, creating it as if red. That's the mystic meaning of Sindoor. When you use the word Sindhu, it is salty ocean. Human heart is like a salty. But with Ganesha movement, it turns into reddish Sindhu, it becomes ocean of love. So with this, we conclude. There are stories, even the very, another very important point, that whoever sees the moon on Ganesh Chaturthi, he will suffer from false accusation. And he should, in order to be free of that predicament, you have to listen to the story of how Krishna secured Syamantak money, and in that process married Jambavanti, Satyabhama, and all that is highly allegorical. Implying, when we say don't see, it is a negative advertisement. The sages knew the psychology. When you tell people don't, who cares to see? But say don't see, especially on that day. So not only see, you remember all the story behind it. And you tell your children, showing them, look, but don't see. So may you all receive the blessings of Lord Ganesh. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukuva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshyamamritat. Om. This prayer is being offered for all who are Shazrat, purifying all the vasanas and leading you to liberation. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukma Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshyamamritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। एक दंत दयावंत चार भुजाधारी, एक दंत दयावंत चार भुजाधारी। माथे पर तिलक सोहे मूस की सवारी, माथे पर तिलक सोहे मूस की सवारी। पान चढ़े फूल चढ़े और चढ़े मेवा, लड़वन का भोग लगे संत करे सेवा। जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। अंधे को आँख देत कोढ़िन को काया, अंधे को आँख देत कोढ़िन को काया। बांझन को पुत्र देत निर्धन को माया, बांझन को पुत्र देत निर्धन को माया। सूर्य शाम शरण आए सफल कीजिए सेवा। माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा। माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। जय गणेश जय गणेश जय गणेश देवा। माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा। माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा।
ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। 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 ॐ